All right, we are live. I am Tara. Welcome to Sagas and Sass. I'm here with my fellow hosts, Nick, Jonathan, and Nami, and we are going to talk about all of the thoughts and feelings we have about Leigh Bardugo's Grishaverse.
This is Season 1, Episode 13, covering The Witch in the Woods, which is the second half of King of Scars.
If you're watching live, join us in the chat, or after the fact, follow us on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter at Sagas and Sass to continue the conversation.
And just a reminder, the views expressed in this show are those of the hosts as individuals and do not necessarily represent the show as a whole.
All right. So real quick before we go into our actual discussion about King of Scars, we've had a lot of Shadow and Bone things happening in the past few days, 4 or 5 days. Jonathan and I jumped on about a 25-minute long Facebook Live on Saturday, which is also available on our YouTube channel, where we just kind of discussed, a little bit more in depth our thoughts on the teaser trailer and the IGN FanFest panel. But since Nick and Nami, it was a super last minute thing and you guys couldn't be there, figured I'd give you guys a minute to share your thoughts and how you feel. Because Jonathan and I we're very excited. We thought it was wonderful. And I wanted you guys to have a minute or two to express what I'm sure is also excitement, hopefully.
Oh yeah, definitely excitement. Just getting to see some of it has me so hyped for this show. I was already excited, and now it's just like, yes, I'm ready. Let's do this. April, come on.
Oh my gosh, I know. How do we have to wait until April? It's not even fair.
It was literally so beautiful. I cried. Like straight up. I was at work and I was like, hold up, guys. Gotta watch this. And I proceeded to watch it like 4 times and just sort of vibrated. And it makes me it's so amazing. And I finally saw Keftis and the costumes look so good. And clearly they had a big budget, and I just and Ben Barnes just made me very angry. And also he was perfect. I cried.
Mm-hmm.
Did anybody else, I know Jonathan hadn't watched the panel as of Saturday, but did anyone else end up watching the panel that they aired right after it? I highly suggest it's pretty short. Like the whole video from IGN with the trailer and the panel is maybe 37 minutes long. And give or take like a minute or so at the very end where you probably don't need to watch like the very conclusion. It's pretty good. There's some good discussion with the cast members. It's just even more hype. And apparently it's I know that was a teaser trailer, but since when is a 2.5 minute trailer a teaser trailer?
Yeah, that's not a teaser. That's a full-on trailer.
Yeah, and they keep saying there's going to be a full length trailer, whatever that means.
I think a full length is technically 3 minutes.
Okay, so they're going to add 30 more
30 seconds.
I don't know. I feel like I don't really want to see too much more because I know that they want to hype it up for people who haven't read the books for sure, but I don't want to see too much more. I don't want to be spoiled. I already know some things that are going to happen, from reading the books, but I don't want to be spoiled for the cool stuff that's going to be in the show. I don't know.
Yeah.
So I guess we'll see. So I think probably sometime this month or maybe first week of April. I would assume it's not going to be too far in advance of the show, but I don't know. I've been hearing later this month, so we'll see, I guess. All right. Well, any last thoughts on that?
Give me more.
Other than just excitement. Also, and I know I noted this to you guys. I saw this on the subreddit, and then I double checked it myself because it had been 12 hours since the post was originally made. But yeah, Shadow and Bone, the paperback copy, was out of stock on Amazon the other day. I haven't looked in a couple days, so it might be back in, but that's pretty big. This is a mass-produced paperback that, I mean, I don't know, Amazon doesn't run out of stock of mass-produced best-selling paperbacks like that unless something
Ever.
big has happened. So yeah, so that's really exciting. I mean, and also there's been a huge influx both on the subreddit and even more so in the Facebook groups of people who are just now reading the books in advance of the show, whether they had heard about them before or heard about them because of the trailer. Like that's really exciting. I'm really excited for this fandom to grow some more. Yeah. So yeah.
It's
So
pretty
yay.
awesome being at that stage too, where you know it hasn't. It's a pretty solid fandom, but it hasn't really blown up yet. And you know that like as soon as the show gets released, it's probably going to blow up.
I do not envy the people that moderate the subreddit and Facebook groups, honestly.
Oh gosh, yeah.
Tara, was your first Ice and Fire Con before the show, or was it after the show premiered?
It was after. It was April 2013. So I want to say that was season 3. Yeah, that was
That's
season. That was
surprising,
it was like right. It was right in the midst, I think, of season 3 of Game of Thrones. But I mean, we were planning it not long after season 2 ended, is when we started planning it. But I mean, I had, you know, I liked the show at that point, but I didn't plan that convention for the show. You know, I knew I knew that the show is what was going to get us more attention for sure. But like I planned, you know, so yeah, I mean that would be a Grishaverse con, actually. I mean, you know, if I still had the energy to event plan on my own, that would be a thing I'd be interested in. But like, you know, hey, anybody watching or listening to this has interest in a Grishaverse con and wants some consulting work done or possibly co-organizing where I don't have to be the only one doing all the things, hit me up.
Crooked condom. Nope.
No.
Shit.
I don't know if you meant to do that, and I don't know which is better.
I really didn't.
Yeah, especially after the body armor fiasco.
Oh Lord! Oh God!
Delightful.
I have been slain.
All right, so
it sounded great in my head.
I mean, honestly, it sounded great coming out of your. Oh, never mind. That's bad too.
Didn't think it could be made worse, but well done.
If it can be made worse, I will somehow find a way to do it. All right, guys. So on that note, let's jump into our recap. We kick off with Jonathan today.
All right, y'all. Let's do this. As you remember, we left off with Nikolai, Julia, and Richard Spencer. Yuri stuck in the Shadowfold and being attacked. Meanwhile, Nina had just buried Matthias and was attacked by wolves, but was saved by Tressel, Matthias's wolf, because he is a very good boy. We pick up with the battle in the Shadowfold, and although Nikolai and Zoya put up a good fight, the monsters overwhelm them, destroying Zoya's amplifier in the process. But it turns out it's actually some saints. Elisveta, Juris, Gregory, and in fact, what?
Turns out these saints have been trapped in the Shadowfold ever since the Dark League created it and need the crew's help to get out. Zoya is distraught over the loss of her amplifier, but Juris promises to train her while Elisaveta prepares Nikolai and Yuri for a ritual to destroy the monster inside Nikolai. But is that really what Elisaveta has planned? It turns out, not exactly. On the day of the ritual, Juris doesn't show up. He's actually been mortally injured by Elisaveta, and she also betrays Nikolai. She's been plotting with Yuri to bring the Darkling back using the monster inside of him. But then, before Juris dies, Zoya bonds with him, making him her new amplifier. It's sort of. Read the book. She then fucks Elisaveta all the way up. The ritual fails, they escape the weird fold within the fold, or whatever the heck it is, and they get to go live happily ever after. Right?
Meanwhile, Nina discovers that the factory is being used as a cover for one messed up experiment. Pregnant Grisha women are being injected with a variety of Jirdaparim and giving birth to babies who will be born already addicted to the drug and raised as powerful virgin soldiers. Or, well, more like slaves. And who also shows up? Jarl Broom. Turns out that he's Han's father. Drama! But this does not stop Nina, Han, Leonie, and Adric from planning and executing a raid on the factory to free the Grisha women and their children. Even with Jarl Broom intercepting them, they're able to escape. But then they're stopped by some guards. Luckily, some villagers realize that some of the women being helped are missing townspeople and stand up to the guards. Then the explosives that Nina rigged go off, destroying the dam, and Nina, Adric, and Leone have to use their powers to save everyone, essentially making Adric and Leone saints in the eyes of the villagers. Nina was a bit more stealth with her power use.
I forgot about that. Well, guys, we can't forget Isaac. He'd been a member of Nikolai's royal guard, but was recruited to take Nikolai's place so that no one would know that the king was missing. What makes this even funnier is that he had to meet with all the delegations who brought potential brides for Nikolai and try to woo the candidates. Obviously, shenanigans ensued, namely that Isaac and Princess Aerie of Shuhan began developing feelings for each other. Unfortunately for Isaac, Princess Aerie is actually a member of the Shu royal guard and therefore also an imposter. The Shu had plotted to use this guard to murder Nikolai. Then she, still posing as the princess, would kill herself, and they would pin both deaths on the Fjerdans. Sadly, Nikolai got back just in time to witness the attack, but wasn't able to prevent Isaac's death. He figured out what happened, and what was his conclusion? That the most that the most politically advantageous thing to do is to marry Aerie. Of course. Oh yeah, and fucking Richard Spencer is actually the Darkling now. The monster inside Nikolai, which was essentially a shard of the Darkling, took over Yuri's body during the battle with Elizaveta. For now, they're keeping him alive as a prisoner, but what is there to say other than this is all sorts of fucked up?
Mm-hmm.
And on that note, oh gosh, there is so much to unpack in the second half of this book. And I know, like, it was so hard when we talked about the first half to not touch on some things. But I thought I was looking for this. I was looking in, actually asking for discussion points today, and one of the things I found was it was actually the same. I think I mentioned it last time. The same young adult fiction subreddit discussion on King of Scars, where someone had commented, "The saints are cartoonish and weird." Which I don't really necessarily disagree with. I mean, Grigori is basically like a constantly morphing bear human, God, I don't even know thing. And like, Eurus is a freaking dragon, a dragon.
I just personally super love like the little puppy bear thing on wheels, like commercial wheels. Like I don't really know what was up with that, but I enjoyed it. Yeah, no,
wasn't that the same? That was the same thing in a Language of Thorns. Wasn't there a puppy bear on wheels? Yeah, it's in the
Language of Thorns.
Yeah, it's in the oh my gosh, the awful story. The Hansel and Gretel inspired. I can't remember
the woods,
yeah,
not the Witch in the Woods, because that's what this is. But.
Yeah, the Witch of something or other. I can't remember what it was called, but yeah. So Puppy Bear comes back. Puppy Bear on wheels, whatever it is.
They're absolutely cartoonish and weird, but I kind of liked it because it like further emphasized how like super out of touch they are. They literally just like. Imagine living in a castle for 400 years with two other people and just being like, the fuck, man. Like, I get 6 people after living with them for like 20 minutes. Like, 400 years? That would not be fun.
And it's not like they really knew each other or were friends, like, IRL, like, before this happened, right? Like, they all kind of lived different places, different times. Like, they might have been alive still at the same time as each other, but like, there was no, indication. I think it
sort of implied that they're all, 400-ish years old.
Right.
All sort of existed at the time when the Darkling was a baby, and so were they, and wild magic was wild and for everybody. And then we became saints, and then the Shadowfold happened, and why are we here now? Let me out.
I didn't quite figure out how they got stuck in it. Were they just in the area?
So the way they explain it is that when the Shadowfold was formed, they were also sort of imprisoned into that space because that, like, the area where the Shadowfold was formed was like one of like, it was like spiritually significant or something, and the power just like drew them there and was like, now you can't go anywhere because I can't go anywhere.
Yeah, I'll be honest. Like the explanation, everything about this weird fold within the fold and how everybody got there, it's not one of Leigh's stronger moments. I don't know if it was just she didn't really know how to explain it, or if it was just maybe in editing it lost some of its, I don't know. It's definitely it's a weaker thing, I think.
It was also, I don't know, it was also another one of those things that it was like hand wavy, weird, ancient magic, weird. And the whole section was just somebody like aggressively shaking me, being like, isn't this weird?
Yeah, again, not one of my favorite, I don't even know, lore pieces from this universe, this series, whatever. But that said, I mean, yeah, I don't know. It felt weird and forced, I'm hoping that maybe, I don't know. I honestly, I don't really know how anything else could get like explained or filled out in, in Rule of Wolves either, because as we all know from the end of this book, it's over and done with, right? So I guess we'll see if anything else happens, but yeah, so now the Saints cartoonish and weird, and how they got there seems it's almost like seems very Looney Tunesy, if you ask me. But one of the big things that I think we just need to discuss and get out of the way, because it's probably going to take up the most amount of time, is the fact that what we thought we knew about the magic system of the Grishaverse is pretty much null and void now. And that being like what we thought we knew was was like the magic system was divided into 3 categories, and Grisha were not only did they only learn one category per Grisha, like each Grisha was shuffled into a category, but they also they seem to only have that power. You know what I mean? Like you didn't find an Inferni who could also control, water or whatever, or storms. So, this is what we thought we knew. And we knew that amplifiers boosted power, and of course, then there's Mertzost, which was, no good, very bad form of magic that drained its user. So this is what we knew, but now it's like all of that's just been blown out of the water. Of course, like, the Saints thing, that was mentioned several times in the original trilogy, that, they were probably real and they were probably Grisha, like in almost all accounts. And we'll, in a couple of weeks when we talk about Lives of Saints, I actually started and need to finish a list of all the Saints in that book and which ones were definitely Grisha and which ones maybe were and which ones maybe possibly weren't. But, so now we know that the Saints not only were real and alive, but a few of them are still alive in this, fold of the shadow fold. But they, despite the fact that they're trapped here, they can also create physical manifestations in the outside world, but apparently only in places where people believe in them. I don't know. Do you guys have any thoughts on any of that?
Well, okay, so I actually have a lot of thoughts. Okay, so as y'all probably know, I am a hoe for a great magic system, and I have always wanted more details of this magic system. And one of the things that I noticed, because I wanted all of that details, is that we have already seen hints of overlap and questions of like why some things are possible and no. So the very first time we see it is actually within Genya herself, because when you think about tailoring as what it is, like using like chemicals and like a Grisha power to change appearance, it's already somewhere in between a corporalki and a fabricator. And, that already shows like the closeness of that. Secondly, you have literally the stories of Ilya Morozova, which say for all accounts he was a fabricator, and then it goes on to describe how he was basically both a Durast and an alchemy. And just in general, the division of Durast versus alchemy already seemed so arbitrary and like, not quite solid. The division between healer and corporalki, wow, I'm so healer and scary healer. What's the scary healer name again? What is it? I can't remember. Healer and murder hobo with the corporality is already, you know, super fuzzy, and it's sort of like it sort of basically said that corporality can kind of choose, and so it becomes kind of like a weird thing that, like, it's such a weird thing to think about that, like, the divisions are written as so solid when clearly it's kind of not. So I love this reveal because it sort of looks like something that Leigh has been building to and like had in mind for this magic system the whole time, and I extra like it even more because on like a very scientific basis it makes so much sense that Grisha are born with the power to control like all like matter, essentially, you know, like the creation at the center of the universe. Grisha power is over matter, it's not over, you know, specifically bodies. And it sort of answers, you know, that question that we had, that backup question of like, do corporality skills only work on people or could it also work on animals? And I suspect that yes, it can work on animals, but they're trained to think that it works on people, and that's what they practice and apply. And, you know, Zoya talking about how like certain fire powers or water powers came more not as easier to her. And what's his face? The Dragon Saint Man talks about Juris. So he talks about how for him he is technically a squaller, but he can do tidemaker things and inferi things, but water stuff always came unnaturally to him. So it's more a matter of like, you're born a Grecian, you can control everything, but you have like your natural talent or what you're naturally inclined to. And now in like this modern world, what people see as Grisha power is just what that natural inclination is. And because of how they've trained and how they've been raised, they just sort of stopped and thought that was it. And I love the idea of how what an amplifier is has been perverted so much over all of this time, because it's such an example of like how inaccurate storytelling can pass on through like generations. And like, as you go down, like information is kind of lost and or like mutated, and you kind of like misinterpret what something is supposed to be, but you still kind of get what it's supposed to be, but also not. And it also makes a lot of sense because like all the stories about how Grisha live longer if they use their power, and like, you know, like it was also sort of reassuring to be like, all right, yeah, the Darkling and his mom weren't the only 400-year-old people, but also sucks now because seems like they're all dead. But yeah.
So side note, like, because we're talking about like the whole like they can control one, like one of them is more oh my god, they're better at one than they are at others, whatever. It's very is that sort of like the Avatar, you know, like so Aang was an airbender, so like airbending came not just because he was trained from a young age, but really airbending came easiest and most naturally to him. And Katara, not Katara, Korra, waterbending came easiest and most naturally to her. So I think that's kind of a cool like they can do all the things, but
yeah,
and along those lines, that for Aang, earthbending was the hardest to learn because it was kind of the opposite for air, and Korra's
hardest was airbending because she had like the physicality and the fighting of everything down, but like the freeness and the flexibility of air was not her thing.
And also this begs the question, like when Leigh was creating this universe, if she had all these thoughts in her head, because obviously these books are published much later, but like was she influenced by like Avatar, The Last Airbender? That's yet another question we would love to ask Leigh.
I would love to ask her that. Also, another thing I could imagine is that like it's possible she didn't know this was going to happen, but like, you know, when you look back on your own work, you notice things, and it's possible that when she looked back on her own work and all of the stuff that she'd written about Ilya and all of the like, you know, the essence of what a tailor is, she's like, yeah, no, this shit is a lot more connected than I meant it to be. Wait, maybe it is all connected. And I love that because when like wow, words. I'm so good at this. When Zoya describes using her squalor powers and then like using all the other powers, it really sounds like she's describing it on an atomic level. And the way that she is figuring out how to harness the other elements is going down to that very, very base atomic level. And so the reason she hadn't been able to grasp that she could do basically all the Grisha skills is because she was thinking of it on such a like macro level, versus Grisha skills are the creation of the universe. And that very, as a tiny thing scientist, it makes me very happy that like it's like atoms, tiny things, even though I don't usually go that tiny. I prefer molecules myself as a molecular biologist. Also, don't mind me. I'm going to turn my cam off for a bit. Do not be alarmed. I am still alive. I just have to run around and do some undignified looking shit.
Well, Nami has stepped away. So other than what we've been talking about, we did mention, or we have already mentioned, that amplifiers are like actually a corruption of how magic used to work. And that was just a really interesting, like, well, why did you have to murder the animal or whatever? And I mean, that kind of harkens back to like Alina and the stag. And it turns out that she actually has more control over her powers and the amplifier, than the Darkling does, because she spared the stag. So I do, Nami's over here shouting in the private chat. Alina has more control over the stag because she gave something back to it. So yeah, I mean, I don't know. What do you guys have any thoughts on any of that before we go on to the flexibility of the magic system and whatnot?
No, I think that was covered.
Yeah, I think it was also covered.
Yeah. Well, I mean, so again, like as we've already talked about, the magic system is more flexible than we thought. Grisha can utilize more than one power. Again, they may be stronger in one than they are in the others. Also, Zoya is part dragon now, apparently, because she had to like use Juris to escape. Like he's dying and he's like, no, but take my powers. So now she's like part dragon.
So stepping back a second. So
yeah, go ahead.
The saints basically merge with their amplifiers, right? I mean, isn't that by sparing them so? Yeah,
I think that's probably the easiest way to describe it.
So going back to a second, the perversion was killing the amplifier. The thought that you needed to kill it. But if you had actually merged with it instead, and they didn't explain how they merged with it, then you would have had much more power. So they were sort of limiting their power by killing the amplifier.
Yes, well, it was like, I think what was specifically said was that you have to give part of yourself back to the animal, since you are taking from it as well. And to be honest, I love that a lot, because the whole like dialogue of amplifiers just made me very uncomfortable from the beginning, because it's like, oh yeah, kill something beautiful and innocent and just use that to gain power. And it was like, ooh, really hate that, not a fan. And it makes sense that it was something that was perverted essentially from what it was supposed to be, which was supposed to be like a partnership and the becoming of one between like two powerful things. And oh my God, I had another very, very insightful thing that I wanted to say here. So, oh yes. So back on like the Alina thing, it also makes that whole like Alina story make a lot more sense, because from an emotional point of view, it's like, yeah, it makes sense that like she bonds with it more by sparing it. But from a lore point of view, it's like, that makes no sense at all. Because what we know about the amplifier is that if you kill it, you gain the power. And the fact that she also had influence, and that influence was mercy, and learning that the influence that she had was not mercy, it was giving back something in return. It just makes a lot of poetic sense. And like the idea now, it also makes more sense, like why one Grisha can only have one amplifier, because in turn, if you're giving something of yourself back to it, it makes sense, because it's like, oh, this is like a very important sacred bond. And it's like part of you is in this bond as well. And like, I don't know, all of that dialogue just makes a lot more poetic sense in my head now. And just the tradition of like Grisha amplifiers taking like the form of like collars or fetters was also a lot more haunting to me, because it was like they were sort of like symbolically imprisoning themselves in this perversion of a ritual for strength without truly knowing the true strength that they were missing by doing it wrong. And I was just like, oh, love this, delicious, terrible.
Well, and I also think, and this is partially from like my own readings and partially from a comment I got on Reddit that I wanted to talk about. But so Zoya specifically, when with her amplifier, and then we obviously get the backstory on this in King of Scars in the second half, I believe. She actually got her amplifier, which is a tiger something from a tiger, the teeth maybe. There were cubs, and like they're magical tiger cubs. White tigers, I don't know. I think it was white tigers, but like, so they're these magical tiger cubs, and she was on this like, trip with the Darkling and some other older Grisha students. She was really young. I don't know, 13, 14, something like that. She was younger than the other students that were there. And, the other students, they captured the little tiger cubs because they wanted to like lure the mother, because they thought, she was the one that they could kill to be the amplifier. And Zoya like let the cubs free, and she was trying to, she wanted to save them. And like she had it in her mind, like that she didn't want to kill this beast. You know what I mean? She didn't want to kill she wanted the babies to be hurt. She knew the mother wanted her cubs back. And, so she tried to set them free. And it was like, she got attacked by another tiger who actually turned out, it wasn't the mother. It was, I don't know, the father or like a male, whatever. And he came after her and the cubs, and she saved the cubs and got attacked by this tiger. And she was just trying to save them and herself. And in the process, she mistakenly killed the tiger. So she earned it as an amplifier. But that almost makes me wonder if, like,
did you think she mistakenly killed it? I didn't get the impression she mistakenly killed it.
Accident. I think she didn't. I think obviously she was trying to attack it and like protect herself, but the intention wasn't kill. The intention was protect me. And it says that she ended up killing it because it had gotten like impaled on a tree or something. So it wasn't like she was like aiming to kill. It was like, oh my God, get away from me. So that's what I mean. That's what we mean by accident versus like she wasn't specifically at that moment like, oh, it's here, I'm gonna kill it. She was like, oh, it's here, protect myself.
Right. And it makes me wonder if like she had the kind of her powers were stronger than they actually were, and she had maybe even more of an attachment to her amplifier than most people do, because it wasn't something that she did like on purpose. You know what I mean?
I don't think so, honestly. I mean, so like I saw that Reddit comment quote that you put for us, and I personally kind of disagree with it. So just for reference, this is Tara had asked on Reddit what we should touch on, and this is a comment from I don't know.
_tomorrow.
It's you. It's the username. The Reddit username is no_tomorrow_2020, which is, I don't know. That's a very, I don't know if that's a depressing username or what, but So yes, this person had a really good thought. Go ahead, Nami. Go ahead.
Yeah, I was like, what? Yeah, don't mind me. But it's like, can you talk about how Zoya became a dragon? Because I think she shouldn't have. The Dragon Saint talks in the books about how you have to lose something to the creature who became your amplifier. You can't just take their life and give nothing back. Zoya got scars from the tiger, and I think that shows she won her amplifier the right way, so she should have become a tiger. Plus, I don't like the idea of Zoya inheriting her power. She makes her own power, and she doesn't need to take it secondhand from a man. She's a powerful woman, and I think it's a better message of her scars are what make her strong, what gave her the power. And while this is a really good insight, and I understand this POV a lot, I actually fundamentally disagree on this for a couple reasons. One, first off, is that I don't believe that Zoya actually gave anything to the tiger, because sort of the way that Juris talks about it isn't that the creature has to take something from you, because something was taken from Zoya, but you have to willingly give something. And I think that's very different from her getting attacked by the tiger and also bearing scars from it. So to me, that doesn't exist, because when you think about, what Alina did, she gave the tiger mercy. Zoya didn't give the tiger anything. For example, if it was one of the tiger cubs had died in her arms after she was trying to protect it, that absolutely could agree giving something back. But at that moment, she was, you know, she was just a child afraid and trying to defend herself. Additionally, that whole action was done while under the influence of the Darkling, and I don't think it's very healthy to have like that positive connotation to it, because obviously she's doing it while she's under duress because she wants to influence this figure and make this figure that has, you know, basically that has groomed her into thinking that she's like amazing, into, you know, also being powerful. And of course the whole comment at the end that the Darkling gives her, that he's basically like, oh, haha, funny how you came out on top of all of this when you didn't even like think you wanted to come here, or slash like when you were just the baby on this trip. Like that whole energy, like just tied to that amplifier, doesn't like resonate with me as like a good thing. And I think her, the other thing is that her attachment to the amplifier is, you know, obviously, you know, a part of the fear generally of losing her power, because Grisha can only have one. And the fact that she could only have one, that's why she was so upset when it got destroyed. Not because it's like anything especially powerful. Like she's just naturally already a powerful Grisha. And she says also, like at the time of the trip with those other kids, even though she was the youngest, she was already the best. And I think that, you know, it's the sort of thing that like it probably is true, because Zoya is a lot of things, but she's not. And she does have a lofty opinion of herself, but I don't think she would be so arrogant to say that she was the most powerful when she was obviously not, because she's never actually lied about it in her own mind, at least. And and so that was my whole thing. The other thing is that, so yeah, so just on a fundamental aspect, I don't think she gave anything back to the tiger, so I don't think that that counts as like a stronger amplifier because of it. Also, the tiger persona has a lot of, you know, negative connotations, because that person, the person who that tiger became, is, you know, a lot of what she became because of the evil of the Darkling. So I think her becoming a dragon is sort of fitting, because it's her sort of emerging from that trauma and becoming something new. Additionally, I don't think it's bad. I don't think it's anything like, oh, like she inherited her power because, and she got it secondhand from a man. Like, absolutely not. I think this was her finding a positive influence in her life as a mentor figure. Because think about it, like her mentor previously was the fucking Darkling. And now, like, in a way, she's kind of emotionally healed despite seeing Juris die in front of her, by having a positive mentor figure who was arguably more powerful than the Darkling could ever be. And, you know, obviously wasn't the nicest to her, but pushed her to become as powerful as she could be. And at the end, the reason that she inherits his power and the reason he gives his power to her is because he sees that she's worthy. Unlike the Darkling, who literally was like, never good enough, don't give a shit, don't really care about you. We'll groom you anyway, just in case, but don't really care. So I think saying that like she inherited her power from a man is like very short-sighted. I think it's a teacher seeing the potential of the student, teaching the student the full potential, and her actually living it up to it, and him being like, yes, this is what I want to do, to like, this is how I want to live on and how you can help your friends, you know? So it was sort of like, I liked her becoming a dragon because, don't get me wrong, it's rather Mary Sue-ish if we're going to jump back into all of that nonsense. But you know what? Give me more Mary Sues. Like give me the overpowered female protagonist for no reason than because she's overpowered. She's the overpowered female protagonist. I like it. And like the story that like gets her there, I like that she becomes a dragon, because it's sort of I feel like it would have been more, you know, thematically or story-wise fitting if it was like a phoenix, but like literally reborn in the flames. Like she was forged anew. And I really liked it. I enjoy it.
Well, and we also don't know, I don't think, I could be wrong here, so correct me if I am, anybody, either you guys or if somebody watches or listens to this later and wants to leave us a note. We don't know, like, yes, Juris was a man, but we don't know anything about that dragon. We don't know anything about dragons in this universe really much at all. Was it a sexless dragon? Because a lot of the times they are in myth and fairy tales. It could have been a female dragon. We honestly don't know. Like, so, you know, you're like Juris became one with the dragon. We know nothing about this dragon that he became one. Maybe it was a male dragon, but like we don't actually know that. But yeah, I mean, even, you know, outside of just not knowing, you know, for sure that it was even a male dragon, specifically. I mean, again, like you said, like, I mean, sure, would it have been like cooler if it had been a woman that she inherited this dragon power from? Yeah, sure, but like, I mean, I don't know.
I think
Leigh had been writing this story for a long time. We already had heard the stories of Eurus and the Dragon. She couldn't go back and change something that.
Well, I mean, isn't that because it's based on St. George?
beats me.
I mean that's how I interpret
Almost
it.
certainly, yes.
This is based on St. George the Dragon, who slayed the
Anything has
dragon.
to work. What are saints?
You better
So-
read up on them, Nami, because in 2 weeks we got to talk about them.
Well, if I meant IRL ones, but like book ones.
No, that's what I'm saying. St. George, yeah.
But
and the
yeah, no,
dragon.
I think in a way I like it more that it was a man, because when you think about it, she did have a good like female teacher. Like Bagra was terrifying as shit, and she's the reason she knows all of her powers. But also like Bagra did fail her in a way because she didn't protect her from her own shitty son. You know, and I think reducing it to Zoya got her power from a man is just like kind of inherently problematic in my eyes, because, you know,
Well, and the tiger was male too, so
exactly, you know, and it's kind of that's not the story or the point in my mind. The point was like her healing from a terrible mentorship and her growing beyond her powers and understanding that she had been limiting herself. And I think the fact that it happens with a male mentor after her previous male mentor was a literal garbage heap was part of a healing journey as well. And I think that might have not been as much of a parallel if it had been another woman, but also I think that that's kind of funny. And at the age that these weird saints are, they're pretty much like ageless grandparents in my eyes. Like ageless, genderless grandparents. They are just quote unquote ancient beings, and ancient beings are inherently genderless. So, you know, I like Eurus is more of a dragon than a man, / is more of a man than a dragon.
Right.
It's all a bit hand wavy, and he's like, I'm whatever I feel like, what I feel like it. Yeah.
Well, and also, I mean, like, just to again, like, reiterate the fact that she had one bad male mentor, and now she gets a good, you know, male presenting, I guess, mentor. Like, obviously, I don't I'm not going into like a sort of like hashtag not all men bullshit, but it is very, very good for people to be reminded that like there are good male role models in, you know, in the world, whether it's the real world or the fantasy world, that there are good people out there, you know, like that can help change your mind about things. Like I don't know, as someone who had a lot of really toxic male friends when I was younger and who now has a lot of very, very wonderful, you know, male friends, it's I think that is important to note that like that does help things. That does help not fix things necessarily, but it does help like that trauma, that, you know, that experience to have a good, you know, I don't know if I want to say even role model, but like mentor, whatever, like a friend even. Cause I think, you know, he started as a mentor, but I think really like there maybe could have been more of a friendship that would have developed between them over time. You know, as she kind of mastered the things that he wanted her to master. But yeah, oh gosh, so much to unpack there. So any other thoughts on this stuff,
sorry.
please,
Well,
before we
related, but it's total rampant speculation. Does this mean that is this the methodology they're going to use to return Elena's powers through Mal
I doubt it.
in future books? I mean,
I don't think so. I think it's been very much, I mean, if it does happen, like, I guess it would make logical sense that it now, like, there's a path for it. But I also think Mal and Alina have gotten their quiet, happy ending. Like, let them rest. Like, come on.
yeah, but this is
Yeah.
fantasy. No one gets their quiet, happy ending.
we might see them again, but I don't think that don't think Alina's. I think if we see them again, it's just going to be like a thing that is forced by. I mean, really, like by Alina choosing to come do something because let's be real, at the end of the original trilogy, Alina did still have this sort of place in her heart where she felt, bad, I guess, for the Darkling and how he had like what had happened to him, how he became what he became and whatnot. So do I think there's a chance that she will come back in an attempt on like maybe on her own part to talk sense into him or something? I don't think that's out of the question, but power wise, I don't think she's getting any power.
Yeah, especially because it talks about how her final sacrifice is literally giving up her power. So I think it sort of erases the impact of that by finding a way to give her power back. And also, if the idea is to give her power back through Mal, as in like they both sort of amplify each other, it's also heavily like talked about how Mal no longer has his tracking ability. He no longer has that weird like tie to the making of the world. That is what I am now calling Grisha powers, by the way. That like he no longer has that tie to the magic anymore, and neither does she. So I think that neither of them can get magic anyway. And like, I think a part of it is like you do need to be born with it. And I think now that she has given it up as sort of like her final action, like it's not coming back. And
that, and also like the Darkling is back. Please no more.
Yeah.
Please no
I
more.
think it would be poor
the
storytelling on Leigh's part if she gave Alina back her powers.
Yeah.
Which isn't to say it won't happen, because even good storytellers sometimes make decisions that aren't the best in terms of actually weaving a really complex and comprehensive story. But I think Leigh is above that, and unless that actually comes up, I don't think it really merits further discussion.
Yeah. Also, I wanted to sort of, I'm so sorry. I wanted to go back to that comment again and like sort of like talk about the end, because it says she's a powerful woman. And I think it's a better message if her scars are what make her strong, what give her power. And I absolutely fundamentally disagree about that, because everybody always talks about, oh, like your injuries are what make you stronger. Like what you deal with makes you stronger. It's like, no, stop injuring people to make them strong. Healing makes you strong. Recovering makes you strong. Love makes you strong. Enduring trauma, it forces you to become strong. Yes, but it doesn't inherently give you strength. Like
and also doesn't do it in the right ways most of the time.
Exactly. Giving
especially if you don't, go through like therapy and like
exactly like
and almost always you develop defense mechanisms that help you in the moment of handling the trauma. But after you start to get past the trauma, they actually harm your ability to move forward.
Yeah. So like forcing yourself to become strong by enduring a trauma or making it through a trauma, like I don't like, objectively it does make you stronger. Yes. But I don't think that is, in an ideal world, nobody would become strong that way. Everybody would become strong like through love and support and encouragement and, unlocking their inner potential, which is why I think the dragon ending for Zoya in this arc is so much more fitting, because, she's becoming strong, not because of the injuries that she retained from the tiger, not because of the wounds that she retained from the Darkling, not because of the world's like sort of shitty opinion of her. She's becoming strong because she's unlocking who she could truly be in her magic. And don't mind me as I get a little teary-eyed over this, because I'm like, yes. So like, any dialogue about like your scars make you stronger, like kind of sets me off a little bit, because my whole response to it is, but you shouldn't have to be scarred. Like, don't get me wrong, like beauty and accepting all of your flaws, like all of that, like not erasing any of that. And like, if you have scars, like, and they make you strong, like, fuck yes, absolutely. But ideally, like we don't want to look at that as like, and like as a thing to celebrate. Like, it's great that you can become strong from your trauma, but it's a tragedy that you had to do so,
It's in spite of, not because of.
Exactly. And overcoming something is incredibly an accomplishment, but it's never the ideal. And if you can overcome something and then become even stronger afterwards from something positive, that's the real victory. And like, your scars make you strong, or just, I'm sorry, commenter on Reddit. I'm like low-key tearing you to shreds. And like, let it be known that I absolutely understand all of your point of view, and like I get it, because that is sort of like, you know, like a knee-jerk sort of reading response that I would have also had to this. But like when I think about it, when I reflect on it, and like this is what I see, and I'm like, you know what, I do like this storyline. Obviously, if you don't personally like Zoya, that's probably a different thing, and you're probably sitting here like, oh, why is she so strong, that bitch? But like that's, you know, that's a separate, neither here nor there issue. And I think it's good storytelling on her like emotional arc, in a sense that, like, you know, she's essentially becoming strong by healing and by giving up like her feelers and like not limiting herself and like letting herself be open to other kind of thinking besides like the basic indoctrination that she got as a kid in the army, you know. And it's like all this idea that like opening yourself up to the potential of the universe is what's making her powerful. And like that's a really nice, that's a pretty story, you know.
Well, and I also think, and I don't know this, you know, I don't know this person, obviously I don't know their Reddit is it's you know nothing about a person or who they are or how old they are usually, but you know, that is one thing, and this is not me talking shit, this is just me saying that is one thing I've noticed about this fandom, is that it does, at least the active people, especially on Facebook that I've seen, but also there's even been some posts on Reddit where people were like, you shouldn't be on Reddit, you're not even like, you straight up said you're only like 12 or 13 years old. And I think Reddit has an age limit. I don't know what it is, but like the fandom skews very young, especially for the first trilogy. So I think that there is a lot of, sorry, excuse me, I gotta shut a door here. Living in a house with 3 other people. I think that that's like, you know, that's just something that to remember, is that this fandom does skew very young, at least as of right now. And, you know, a lot of times it's like, you know, people, they come at this with, again, this was a very thoughtful, like understandable, you know, comment and, you know, discussion point. But we're all a little bit older, with the exception of Nami, my baby over here.
Well, when you say very young, I think like 15. So
no. I mean that's yes. I some of the videos and pictures and like the things I've seen from people who are straight up like admitted like how young they were. I would say this fandom skews in like the 14 to 20 age range at best, and most of them are more in that, like, I would say 15 to 19 or 15.
Well, when did the book first get released? The first book?
2013, maybe 2012.
So you think if people were picking up a young adult book, it's at 14 or 15, which is probably who it was aimed at.
Well, the people who read it when it first came out for sure
now,
are
right?
older now, but no, I mean, I think these are people who have read it more recently, or who maybe haven't read it at all, but like, and are coming to it from the show. And again, like, I'm not shitting on like the fandom skewing young or anything like that. But what I'm saying is that a lot of time, I mean, I'm shit. If I had read these books when I was like 14 or 15 or 16 years old, I probably would have been like, you know, more into the Dark Lena thing than I am now. I don't think that would have been my end game, but I actually probably would have been like, well, yeah, obviously Melina, like their childhood love, blah, you know, like, if I think about who I was at that age and how I would have read this and interpreted things and whatnot, like it's not difficult to understand the sort of frustration that like, yeah, well, but wait, but Zoya like had to like merge with this dying dude to like get this like insane dragon power, and like, but what about her tiger? I mean, it's a lot more understandable, I guess, if I think about it from that.
It makes a lot of sense because it's I think it's one of those things that it's like a very valid analysis. And if you want to try to, you know, everybody has to start somewhere when it comes to like, you know, thinking about books on a deeper level and thinking about like the hidden implication and like the meaning of things beyond what is just written and like what the messages behind that means. And I think, you know, going with the initial like, oh, it's weird that she gets her power from a man when she's already so powerful is, you know, it makes a lot of sense from an analysis perspective. And it makes a lot of sense why people would think this and why they wouldn't like it, which is why, like, I absolutely get this reader, and like I really respect their opinions on this because it makes sense. It's a good analysis. And I think that, you know, a part of analyzing things is also looking at nuance, and that's not a skill you get right away. And that's not a skill I would have had as a teen. That's not a skill I even had 2 years ago. And it's a skill I am still, you know, trying to develop now and trying to learn more about. But like nuance is the thing that exists. And when it comes to analyzing fiction and just things in general, you have to be able to, you want to be able to let nuance in. And I think that's why when Tara says that like this fandom skews young, so it's likely that this person is young and isn't used to letting nuance in and is maybe, you know, just trying to analyze things as a base, or even if they are older and they're just, you know, analyzing things generally and not thinking nuance, like that's like, you know, it is what it is. But yeah, I definitely think this fandom does skew very young.
I want to take a step back from making any kind of assumptions about age or anything like that.
Yeah, I didn't want to make assumptions about age. My point being, like, sometimes if you just haven't been through like this sort of trauma, it's hard to,
Well, that's exactly my point. Like, so trauma and healing don't have any age associated with them, right? Like we can experience trauma at a very young age and we can start our healing process at a very young age. I went through traumatic experiences for the first like 30 years of my life and only started really healing after I was 30. And so there are things that would trigger a response from me, even today, that if I don't take a step back, it's going to be hard for me to not see it in the frame of my trauma. And so, you know, I think there are a lot of different ways to interpret, particularly, you know, this particular interaction, but really anything. And so I think what Nami's saying about this being a very valid viewpoint is true. And I think that no matter how old this particular commenter is, how old any of us are, I think what's important is to recognize two things. One, our viewpoints on specific things are going to be affected by our own life experiences, and those can happen at any point in our lives. And two, that healing that comes from those experiences can happen at any point of our lives and is also going to impact how we see that. Clearly, we, as you know, the four of us, have our own viewpoints, our own experiences, and our own opinions based on all of those things. And it's also incredibly valid for anybody else to have differing and, you know, sometimes completely opposite opinions from us. And unless Leigh says, this is what I wrote, this is what I meant, and this is canon, then have your opinion, you know?
Yeah.
For us, that's not how we saw it. And hopefully, I mean, Nami went off like in a very good way. I loved every moment of it. It was exactly my thoughts. And if you listening to her, you still are like, no, that wasn't what I read. That's not what my experiences is. Good for you. And again, like unless Leigh says, this is what happened, this is how you should read this, and hopefully she never does, because there are some things that should be left open to interpretation. Have your opinions and build from those. And as Nami also pointed out, you know, build that detection of nuance and find what makes sense for you. And if what makes sense for you is based on your experience and it's not what other people are seeing or what other people are experiencing, but for you it resonates as true, like that's awesome. That's what matters.
Yeah, that also goes to say
as long
that
as
like,
it doesn't include any like hatred.
Exactly.
Right. Yes.
It
Yes.
also like goes to say that if even after listening to all of this, you still are like, nah, I don't like Zoya becoming a dragon. Like, fuck yeah, that's your own thoughts. Like, you don't have to like something as long as your reason for not liking something is just like, you know, like opinion and not like, you know, I just hate women or something like that. You're exactly. Valid. So like as long as you're
I just hate dragons. Ew.
Yeah, I mean, let it be known, if you come out here just saying that you hate women or that you just hate dragons, we are not friends. I disagree with that. You're wrong. But if you're just like, yeah, no, I don't like that Zoya became a dragon, or no, I don't like that Zoya's a Mary Sue, like, good for you. We're allowed to like and dislike things, and opinions are good because in this case they're opinions, and it's not like, hey, I think all these people should not exist because they don't like them. Cough, don't be a Drew Skell. You can have opinions on other things.
Oh, speaking of Drusilla, any last thoughts before I move on to the next bit? Because we have an entire other storyline to talk about. Wow. So I know, right? I know. This is literally like, I guess we should talk about Nina too. I hate to say that because I freaking love Nina, but like her chapters in this book are just, and this is also from an old post on the YA subreddit, same old post. Somebody said like you could take away all of the chapters with Nina's point of view and it would not affect the Nikolai. This is supposed to be the Nikolai duology, so it would not affect right now, as of right now in this book, the Nikolai Zoya story at all. And this person's I'm bad. I didn't note their username, but they said it felt like, you know, what was happening in Fierda and was happening in Ravka are like we're like competing with each other in this book for domination of the storyline. Which I don't know if I necessarily agree with that because obviously the Nikolai and the Nikolai and Zoya and that storyline, the Ravkan storyline is very much the dominant storyline here. That's the problem though. The Nina thing is a side story and like, you know, you can like or dislike Nina's perspective of what's going on, where she is. But, you know, the person specifically said that Leigh should have somehow tried to let the stories converge more at the end. Now I don't really agree with that because, like, when Leigh wrote this, she knew it was going to be 2 books. And the second book is literally called Rule of Wolves. Okay. So like, I can't imagine a world in which these 2 storylines don't converge in this book. The book is called, and we've known this for a very long time. I don't know if we knew it right when King of Scars came out, which this comment might have been close within a couple months of that release. But so you know, assuming that we didn't know the title of this book when this comment, you know, was made. This book is called Rule of Wolves. Obviously things are going to converge. And I think we all knew that they had to eventually. Like Leigh is not, she converges things eventually regardless. You know what I mean? Like we're not getting 2 entirely separate books in one here necessarily. And obviously if they don't, but if they don't converge very quickly in Rule of Wolves, it's going to be kind of awkward. So all of that said, we've got this whole separate storyline with Nina where in a way we're seeing more Grishaverse, you know, or you know, we're seeing more of the magic, or what's behind the magic from Nina herself, because hers has been corrupted by Yurdaparam. And now she, as a corporalki, can no longer do, as far as we know at this point, which God, hopefully with everything that's going on with Zoya, please let this mean that Nina will get some of her corporalki powers back somehow. Because like, wow, if that's not part of what Zoya is learning, then my God, what the fuck is the point with Nina, you know, like, but right now all she can do is listen to / hear and control the dead. And like, I just,
in a way,
I mean,
I really love, I actually loved Nina's POV in the second half of this story. Because, so for me, the first half Nina POV was depressing as fuck, and that's the reason I didn't pick up the second half of the book for so long. And I literally finished it today and like did a quick like audible. I bought the audiobook and then I listened to the second half on 3.5x speed while I was at work today, and it was just like, it was one of those things that the whole time, like as Nina's story was going on, I was just getting increasingly hyped for it because it was clear that she was sort of becoming like the avenging, like Grim Reaper of these wronged women. And I loved that so much because it is so very her, but like also her doing this in a way and like trying to educate the villagers of Fierda about why Grisha were not evil. It was just such a perfect tie of her, it was such a perfect extension of her arc from the Six of Crows duology, and like a perfect extension of Matthias's will and like what he had hoped for his country in such a positive way that I never, as a previous Matthias hater and as a now Matthias acceptor and sad that I didn't get to see him improve it was one of those things that it made me really happy because Tara, that was amazing.
I'm sorry. I almost spit out my water at the like as a former Matthias hater, and then now a Matthias acceptor, and sad that I didn't get Matthias to see Matthias improver. I'm sorry.
But no, it was just so very fitting because like her arc literally ends with her breaking these women out. And first of all, I'm not even gonna touch on the absolute fucking horror of what it is that Jarl Broom is doing. Literally imprisoning women, getting them addicted to drugs, and turning and like literally constantly raping them to have them give birth to further people with magic that he is then going to enslave for his country and then probably torture and use more drugs on because he believes they're not even people. Like, fuck, that's really dark and really disturbing. Like, I'm not even gonna touch that with a stick because if you can't see how fucking fucked up that is, like, we have to have a talk. But like literally the fact that that whole arc ends with them breaking the villagers out and having that confrontation with the guards and having like the villagers come and be like, we hear like a crying baby like in this cart, what's going on, why are you trying to send them to the factory? And basically the villagers sort of being like, hey, these are just regular girls from our town who you are now imprisoning and accusing of being monsters, like they're just regular people. And sort of like seeing how much they've been brainwashed, but also seeing how accepting they can be if it's their own people. And you know, like
I'm sorry, what was that, Nick? What was that? Can you say that a little clearer?
I had a little cough. My cough weirdly sounded like the word Republicans. Seemingly can't empathize with other people unless it actually happens to them.
Exactly. But it's one of those horrible things that, like, you know, it's very much the human nature. It is oftentimes difficult to empathize with a problem unless it's happened to you or unless you have interacted with people or been educated to the point where you understand that, like, this is a thing that actually sucks. And, you know, I wish we as humans could all be born with the innate ability to care for other people and always immediately want what's best for everybody. But, you know, we're not like that. And I wish that was the case. And as somebody who has now grown to be that way and to just always want everybody to be happy, it really sucks that we're not all born that way because, God, do people suck sometimes. But this was one of those moments in the story, and like just like that sort of like restored my faith in the world again, because like obviously like you go through all of this and like Nina's whole like struggle in the beginning of this book made me just sort of be like, Nina, why do you even care about the stupid goddamn Verdants? Just let them go suffer and like you go do your own thing, keep yourself safe, keep your people safe. Do not give a damn about those like snow worshipping tree eaters and wolf fuckers in the north. If you can't tell, I have thoughts about Verda, but it's one of those things that like seeing how
there's no evidence for the last thing you said.
Agree.
Yes, you're right. This is just prejudice against wolf fuckers. But like it was just sorry. Don't even mind me. I don't even know where that train of thought went. It's fine. We went off the rails a bit.
That means angry.
But it was one of those things that it's like Nina's really right. Like these people, they have been raised a certain way. They're not gonna automatically change their mind. But what they will see is that these women that they grew up with, who they know are not threats, who they know are not evil people, are being literally tortured. Like this is obviously evil to anybody who can see it. And no matter what the claim that these people are Grisha, like that won't make them like back off and be like, this isn't evil. They're just going to be like, but why are you doing this to them? Like they're our friends, they're our community. And I think that Nina taking that and knowing that she had to have Adric and Leonie and herself stealthily like save them in a way that also created a miracle for them, that also made them think that their god had a hand in it, was just very, very smart of her. And like, you know, it's a level of like religious emotional manipulation that I'm not sure is like morally all there, but like it makes so much sense why she did this and how it can work, because she understands that like even if they save their lives, they're still strange Grisha, they're still strange people. And you know, it's one thing for them to be like, oh, these helpless women from our own town that we know and grew up with and know are not threats are okay, even though they're Grisha. But it's another thing for like these supremely powerful strangers to come in and, you know, save them all, but still suspect. Like, oh man, they're so strong, they're so powerful. Who could do this? But her literally bringing bones and making it into a tree and the symbol of Gel was just chef's kiss. It was so poetically good because just
Well, and this is their like now they think of them as saints essentially.
Mhm.
And
sacred
so that
and
does
saints.
tie back to
Okay.
everything that we've seen going on and to all the saint stuff that's been going on, you know, just in Ravka, like that's always been going on in Ravka, but most especially like the you know, the things that have been going on recently with the saints creating those things to kind of draw them to the fold and everything. It's very and again, like it's the Fjerdans now seeing them basically as saints. I again, that has to tie into what has been going on in Ravka, you know, like the miracles and everything.
Yeah, it's just, I think what I'm trying to say is that I didn't expect a whole bunch of Feridan villagers to stand up to the ruthless bullshit that their soldiers were doing to harm.
Well, right, but when it's their family being harmed, all of a sudden it's a teachable moment.
Yeah, and it's one of those things that it's like it was simultaneously a moment of like, wow, I wish people could just sympathize and understand humanity, like other humans on this level of compassion always. But it was also one of those like, you know, there is still hope, like kind of restoring my hope in people. Like maybe Ferda isn't all broken, huzzah! And then also just literally wanting to knock all those guards directly into that fucking factory fire. Like fucking burn, you monsters.
Speaking of monsters,
to your point, you know, I felt like the second half of Nina's story was really strong, and it did make me wish that it was more tied to the rest of the plot in the book. You know, every other POV we have is centered on a completely different narrative, and it touches sometimes. You know, Nina's plot touches on the other plots, and the other plots touch a little bit on Nina's plot, but they're not interwoven like we've seen in basically every other book from the Grishaverse. And I really wish that we had some kind of connection there. I do get that, like, probably the Rule of Wolves is going to show us that connection, but I wish that it hadn't
definitely getting
a
it there.
whole book with, you know, where
Oh.
there was no real reason for that to all be at the same time.
Yeah, I think when she ends her story of like, you know, I'm basically going to figure out what's happening with this Lannister pretender and like figure out what's going on there, when it's like clear that these people are actively planning an invasion of Ravka, it's like very clear how this is going to connect and it's going to come back together. But it's one of those things that like I too sort of had like a little bit of like dissatisfaction at the end that it didn't connect. And I'm sorry, Jonathan, I just keep screeching.
It's okay.
I love your screeching.
So I actually really liked this part of this side story, even if it isn't interrelated. But one thing that did disappoint me greatly was the convenience of Jarl Broom. I thought a different character would have been better.
Why?
It just is too convenient. I just think you could have had just as evil a horrible father figure who's a Joseph Mengele type, who wasn't Jarl Broom. I just, you know, the convenience of it for Nina, it rubbed me the wrong way.
I mean, honestly, let's be real. Like the convenience of Jarl Broom and the Darkling in the same book, like is just it's frustrating, and I'm really hoping that Leigh Bardugo like is able to wrap it up in a way that makes it feel less like, oh, we're just bringing back all ye old villains,
all the old antagonists.
Yeah, and I've got a lot of shouting going on in the background. I hope you guys can't hear it.
We can.
I can hear it. You're good.
Okay, good.
I mean, I think it's people can understand new antagonists, and you know, so that.
Yeah. But at the same time, you know, to me, it was very. It did just like the Darkling coming back, and again, like I'm trusting in Leigh to be able to, you know, wrap this up, but like it felt really kind of like not only did Jarl Broom come back, but he's also Hannah's father, and that's kind of like okay.
That part definitely feels a little.
To me, I liked the Jarl Broom and Hannah thing a lot more than the Darkling coming back. Like the Darkling coming back, I was just like yeet it out the window, dislike, keep him out. But to me, like I liked the contrast of Jarl Bruton and Nina and Hannah and that whole story, because to me on a couple levels it was one of those moments of like, you know, like Hannah just being like, my dad's a good man, he would never do this shit, and like just like her visceral horror at finding out like what her father is actually like. Like I think that was like a really, you know, an incredibly sad but incredibly good story, because, you know, once again it goes to show like how, you know, people can seem good to somebody who doesn't know the truth. And it was it was so horrifying. And it was also just so like hilariously like fuck you to Jarl Broom that his beloved daughter is now working against him specifically because she's a Grisha. Like of all things that could have happened to him, having a Grisha child is like the worst for him. And it just made me very angrily happy.
But you could have done the exact same thing with a different character.
But I think it wouldn't have had the same impact, you know, because Jarl Broom.
Yeah, no, I think Tommy has a point.
Yeah, I didn't love it, and I don't love it, but yeah, I don't think the impact would have been the same. And we do know that I think we'd already known that Jarl Broom survived.
Yeah.
Right? Like,
yes.
We had known.
Yes.
Yeah. Nina very specifically didn't kill him. So my issue lies in like, oh, really? Did he have to be Hannah's father? But yeah, like Nami said, I feel like it kind of, he also did kind of have to be, as much as I don't really love it.
It was one of those things that like I totally get why you don't like it, and like absolutely agree. Like I wish it could have been somebody else, but I also understand why it was done. And I personally did kind of like it, because just the enormous universe's fuck you at Jarl Broom made me very, very happy. And just honestly, like Hannah's whole story and character arc so far just was very nice. And I like that a lot, because it's a lot for somebody to learn that what their parents are doing for them is not always in their best interest, and it's in society's best interest. And she had definitely known that from the start, but knowing how like deeply her father's evil connects, and like, you know, her whole thing with Nina where she was like, oh, my dad would still, like, what would my dad do if he found out I was Grisha? He would be upset, but he would still love me. And like her seeing what he's doing to Grisha and just being like, oh no, I don't think he would anymore. And us knowing as readers that he absolutely wouldn't. Like it was just, that impact wouldn't have been there with another character. Because
also though, it's gross that Nina is like having to like fawn over him.
Yeah,
I know, I hate all of that
upsetting.
just makes me want to vomit into a pocket, specifically a pocket on Jarl Broom. Like
Also,
pockets, vomit into that.
Since we're already like at 9:18 or whatever, I want to talk for a second about the Darkling and how, like you were saying, Tara, I hope that Leigh brings this all together, but right now it is like the worst plot point to me. I hate this decision. There was no reason to bring him back, and it feels so contrived. And I'm sure that it's part of some overarching plot that we're going to find out more about in Rule of Wolves. But I was listening to this on an audiobook, but I like, and I do it while I commute. I literally had to like pull over and just like shout for a minute because I was so frustrated. It was just like, why are you doing? Why?
I think another thing was that for me, another part of why I didn't finish this book until literally now was because I knew he was back and I was just so fucking angry. Literally, like, could not get over that anger and like that choice. And like a part of me hopes that the reason she brought him back is to have him be the sort of irredeemable villain that like even the hardest of hardcore fangirls cannot find anything good about him anymore. But also at the same time, I know that that will never happen, and those fangirls are fucking there to stay. They've sat their asses down. It's on the Darkling's dick. They're there to stay. Sorry, I had to say that out loud.
I hope they lubed up first.
They probably did it. They like it to hurt because they're bullshit. Sorry, all of that was
You
terrible.
really got to work up to it before you just sit down on it.
Really sorry. God, I feel very bad for having to say
You
that out
should.
loud. I really want to take it back now. But like that's literally it. And I hope the reason he's coming back is so he could be even more terrible and we could just finally be like, see? Garbage man. But also he like completely
Well, also,
murdered.
he's not attractive anymore because he just looks like Yuri.
He looks
Well,
like
also, I feel
So
like
is he going to be a less attractive villain because he is physically less attractive?
probably people be shallow. Taking bets now, I agree. But also fandom has probably already decided he's hot because fandom sucks like that.
well,
yeah,
they'll
no,
probably cast somebody attractive as Yuri, so it won't matter.
Straight up rage. Hate it, the worst. I'm sure Leigh will make it work. I have faith that like she will still write a good story, but goddamn, why didn't he stay dead? Keep the garbage. We took it out, we burned it, we literally burned it. Now somebody was like, but he saved his corpse. Like, Elizabeth, take your bees and go fuck yourself.
Those poor bees, they didn't ask for this.
Sorry, I have angry thoughts.
So yeah, I don't think there's anything else to say about the Darkling coming back. Jonathan, what are any of us happy about this? Like, do any of us think this was like did any of us read this thinking, oh yeah, this has got to be like a good thing? Like this is, I don't know.
Now, I mean, again, both the Darkling coming back and Broom, it just seemed too contrived to me. I had hoped for more.
Yeah, I
really enjoying the story, but I just like you can do better.
I can forgive Broom more because like at least you
He was
knew
still
he
alive.
wasn't dead, right? Like,
Yeah, you didn't literally kill him off in the first trilogy.
Yeah,
but
like obviously Nina's arc would have involved her coming back and like literally fucking up Broom's shit. So like the fact that he's already back and the fact that it was already like really convenient, it was like I was like, yeah, this is really convenient, but also like it was gonna happen. She was gonna find him. And she was
It's
gonna
almost like having a trilogy with an overarching villain where the villain dies at the end due to a really noble sacrifice, but then in a later series, but in the same universe, that overarching villain is brought back for seemingly no reason.
Huh.
Seemingly.
What could we possibly be talking about?
Being the merciless.
Yes, exactly. It was a new merciless reference.
I'm just hoping. I have so much hope for Rule of Wolves and that like especially the Darkling stuff will make some semblance of sense. Like that there will be something that happens that's like, okay, well we forgive the fact that the Darkling came back for this reason. Okay, so before we close up, real quick, just can we like poor Isaac, like cry about Isaac
oh my
for a
gosh,
minute?
Poor Isaac.
This poor guy.
I just I think
everything about that
thing for me was that like Mayu so obviously was actually in love with him.
Or
and,
in love, like whatever.
No,
they were in infatuation in like it had been a very short period of time.
They were in very hardcore crush, and if it had been literally anything else, like any other situation, like they would have been able to have like the potential for their happily ever after. But the fact that like literally, oh God, I just want to hug Isaac and bring him back to life, and then
because he dead.
Yeah, because he dead. Why couldn't we have brought Isaac back instead of the Darkling, right?
That is an excellent question. That is the real question.
I suppose there's still a chance, but
yeah,
seems unlikely.
Yeah, I that would be one of those kind of almost unforgivable, like, oh come on. Yeah. Like, oh come on.
Also, I do have to confess that so when I read books, I have sometimes a bad habit in which I'll just sort of flip to the end and read a bit and then flip back and keep reading from the beginning because I am I've realized that I have a lot of anxious habits when it comes to reading, and that I sometimes, like, if I can't continue reading the story because I get so anxious about where the story's going, I have to spoil shit for myself so I can keep continuing to consume the content. It's also part of the reason that I just haven't watched The Crown, because everything about that makes me very anxious for Queen Elizabeth. Like, you're not going to have a good time, sweetie!
But you also know everything that's going to happen in The Crown.
But Nick, I'm concerned.
It's literally already happened now.
Yeah, it's literally real life. Come on.
You know,
Well,
guys,
I mean,
guys, I never said this was a
slightly
logical
historically
issue.
inaccurate real life.
Never said this was a logical issue, just said it was an issue. But so I will confess that a part of what I did when I was halfway through part 1, when I first got this book, I sort of had flipped through the back and I like read the ending for Isaac and I was like, what? He's impersonating Nikolai, he gets stabbed, they know it's not him, what? And I didn't and like I knew it was coming, but I didn't expect myself to like actually love Isaac and bond with him, which made all like his ending even more tragic because I was like, no, this baby's gonna die. Just just keep him safe. And like logically, I know he's like 27. He's like he's not BB, but he's BB, and it just was.
He seems even more baby than everybody else in this book, though.
Yeah, he's very sweet and
it's also
innocent
because,
in a
like,
way.
He's very much not in a position of power, and everybody else is like, hey, look at me. I got power, bitch. I got power, bitch. And it's him, and he's like, hello, I am good boy. I just want to get rid of my king.
He's like a puppy. He's like a puppy.
He is like a puppy.
He is actually like they call him Nikolai's nickname, right? Was Puppy.
Yeah.
Like, yeah, Isaac is actual puppy.
Yes.
So R.I.P. Isaac though. Like I can't imagine. I mean, I'm pretty sure they specifically said at the end of this book that he was like dead.
Yeah,
like,
dead.
but the guard impersonating Ari, was she actually dead?
I think survives.
They saved her.
Yeah, so they save her. She lives. She is in the little palace under heavy guard, being taken care of by the corporalki.
Yeah.
The princess is obviously fine. She's having a crisis.
Oh yeah, because now she's got to marry Nikolai apparently. Which also
I'm like very interested to see if there's ever going to be any sort of confrontation between her and her older sister. Because it's very obvious that her older sister is not going to let her go. Like Nikolai's absolutely correct. Like
how long is Rule of Wolves supposed to be? Because that is just so much to unpack.
Yeah,
we can barely I can barely figure out how like the Nina Fjerdan and like Ravka Nikolai stories are gonna merge. Like
I know it's empty hoping, because I just honestly I want to see more of what Shuhan is like. I want to see more of what Novi Zem is like, because come on, give us details on the not white countries. Like, let's fucking go, right? But like my thing is that like it's just like the sliver that Nikolai gives us of how he's like, it's very obvious that if this plan had gone to fruit, like your sister would have had you killed, right? And like just like how obvious that is, and how she's like so determinedly like naive and like no, that wouldn't happen. But it's also like she has to know somewhere in there. And like I would just love an entire story about like Shrew royalty and all of that bullshit, because like their whole like thing is just so vague but so interesting to me. Like
that's why we need like a world of Grishaverse book, like World of Ice and Fire, right?
Leigh, can you write a World of Grishaverse book that's just about Novi Zem?
Nina, can we be your Nina? Oh my God, Leigh, can we be? Oh yeah, I'm tired. I've been up since 5 a.m. Leigh, can we be your Elio and Linda to GRM, like where we write the World of Grishaverse book, please?
Please, oh my God, I would love to write just like stories about like the Suli and like how they became who they became, and like their home country, and like how Ravka was like secret, like.
Are you gonna run that website, Tara?
Oh God, no.
The Tower of the Grisha?
I don't have time for this. I don't have time for anything. Okay, so we're close to an hour and a half here. Do we have any last thoughts about the story as a whole? Because like, I mean, again, like we've got Rule of Wolves is coming out this month, y'all. We're going to be, and speaking of which, just real quick plug, 2 weeks from now on St. Patrick's Day, actually, we're going to be covering the lives of saints. So I will be wearing green. Don't know about you guys, but I am going to do my best to come up with some like crazy like real life St. Patrick's Day like games for this, because I'm stupidly like, it's St. Patrick's Day. I am Irish. I will do this somehow.
Well,
but fun for us to write our own St. Patrick inspired like if Saint Patrick was a saint.
Oh my God! Can we each write like a short fanfic, like a short since we won't be doing a recap, can we each write like a 500-ish word like fanfic about some sort of Grisha saint that we're making up that's based on a real life Catholic saint, please. We'll talk about this later, but we'll do something fun for St. Patrick's Day and Lives of the Saints, and then on March 30th, we are all attending the Rule of Wolves virtual release event that's being hosted by a bookstore actually out here in California where I am. And then on the 31st, we'll be recapping that event. And then on April 7th, Wednesday, April 7th, about literally like 1 week and 1 day after the book comes out, we're going to be covering the book as a whole because there's no way we can split that up. I'm sure. But like, so any last like thoughts, any last like things you're hoping to see in Rule of Wolves since it comes out so soon, like anything?
Well, we somehow managed to go the entire discussion and not mention the potential Nikolai Zoya romance that was pretty obvious to me, was hinted at in that second half of this last book.
Oh yeah, it's like definitely.
I've seen speculation that one of them will die, and I honestly I might be real mad because I feel like if either one of them, because this is the ship that is, I'm sorry, Leigh, but because this might happen, but I want Leigh to be a better writer than that. Like, I don't feel like either one of them should die. I know that technically it's more common that a woman is fridged for a man's, arc to move on. But like, I still feel in this case that it please don't. Please don't. I hope not. Like that's if that happens, if either one of them dies in the next book, and I know it's possible, but if either one of them dies in the next book, I'm not going to be happy.
I don't think there's any chance either of them will die in the next book.
I think the worst part about it is that Zoya, especially in my mind, cannot die because Leigh has literally made her a POC now. Because like officially in the second half of the book is where you read that is where you find out that her father is Suli, so she's like officially canonically half Suli. So like Zoya literally cannot be killed.
Well,
or I will rage.
And then there's the whole Nina thing. Like people were saying Nina would die, and it's like, okay, no, Matthias already died to further Nina's story arc.
Yeah,
and also if Nina dies, that's a bury your gaze trope because she's bisexual.
Yeah.
So well, she could be pan, whatever. She is not straight. So
we don't need characters to die in order to further the plot of a book. That's just not, and especially not to further a romance.
It's one of those like if
it's just
Nikolai, the only thing that I can see working in a way for the story is if Nikolai dies, and I hate it because I love Nikolai as a character, but story-wise for Ravka to get out of like the whatever the word is for a country ruled by kings into a country that's different.
Monarchy?
Yes. Monarchy to a something else. Literally
just
anything else.
Evolve Ravka from a monarchy in a war-torn country into something else. Like I see how Nikolai dying can fuel that, but I still don't like it, for starters, hate it. And secondly, I don't see how Leigh can do that without the entire fandom fully rioting, because Nikolai is like literally the most beloved character right now. So
well, and also like the thing that the theory that I saw was that Nikolai would die so that Zoya could become queen. But it's like that he doesn't have to die for her to become queen. He's already talked about giving up his monarchy. There have been conversations in King of Scars. There were conversations in King of Scars where he was like, maybe Ravka doesn't need a monarchy anymore. Okay. Yeah. So like, he does not have to die for that to happen. He doesn't. He is literally willing to do it if there is a way for the country to, like, for the government system to work without a monarch. He is willing to do that. So like, why would you please, Leigh, don't, why would you put that out there and then kill Nikolai only so that
Yeah, and like the fact that like
The-
the thing that scared me so much is that when Leigh was like talking about this book, she was like, blah, blah, like this will happen, a wedding and a funeral, and I was like, oh god, no, who dies? Because none of the options are good unless it's the Darkling dying again. If it's the Darkling dying again, I am 1,000% here for that.
Well, they didn't have Isaac's funeral yet, did they?
Nope.
That
So maybe that's what it is.
you're
The
right.
other thing that I just thought of that
It's
we cannot do, and I'm really now worried that she's going to do, is kill Hannah.
Yeah, no, she can't kill Hannah because Hannah is also So once again, it's sort of shown that Hannah's mother is whatever the indigenous peoples of Fjerda would have been, because she's described as brown. So Hannah is mixed race. Like can't kill Hannah. Shouldn't kill.
And
Aerys.
also very likely not straight. So again, like
Yes.
there's this here's the thing, like all of these amazing characters that Leigh has written, like it would be literally Nikolai is the only one that we could lose and it be not like like in terms of characters we actually like, by the way, and it not be like a killing a POC or bearing your gaze or
or killing a cripple with Adric, or once again Leonie,
Kaz.
a woman of color, or
Kaz. Well, yeah, I mean, I don't think we're gonna see Kaz.
Kaz isn't going to be in Rule of Wolves.
But yeah, I mean, yeah. Just
honestly, I hope Leigh's whole thing about a funeral was just her swerving us and being like, "Hey, you fools! Isaac hasn't been buried yet. You fucking idiots." That's all I
really hope that's what happens.
I really hope that's it, because honestly, I hadn't even thought about that. Whoever said that, thank you, because you've given me hope again. But I also probably shouldn't hope, because
That was me.
That was Jonathan.
Thank you, John.
Why
Jonathan,
do you
if that
put these
turns
things
out
in our
to
head?
be- Jonathan, if that
See,
turns
it's good to let Jonathan talk.
In the end, it's in the end they're gonna bring OnCat back, and he's gonna be the one that dies.
it was
No,
the
don't
whole
kill the
time.
cat.
Listen,
Oh my God.
the only acceptable funerals for Rule of Wolves: Isaac's funeral, because that boy deserves a good one, or the Darkling again. Or
So
both,
if the Darkling does die again, does the Darkling become Kenny from South Park, and they
my
resurrect him
God.
every episode and kill him, only to kill him by the next book?
I would write that fanfic. I got you, John. If he dies again, I'm writing that fanfic.
Nami's all over it.
Oh my God.
Also, John, I have a very important question for you, because it was sort of implied that I'm going to be making cosplays for everybody in this group, since I will be cosplaying Zoya, so I will be making Tara and Nina costume eventually when life lives again.
Who do I want to cosplay?
Nick and Nikolai cosplay. Yes, John, who do you want to cosplay? Also, Nick, we're gonna take cute photos. Like,
Should it be a main character, or should it be an age
It can be
appropriate?
whoever you want.
whoever you want, John.
That's the point
Cosplay.
of cosplay.
Yeah, let me. I'll say it here and I'll say it again. Your skin color doesn't matter for cosplay. Your body type doesn't matter for cosplay, and fuck no, your age doesn't matter. You can literally you can cosplay.
I'll do Kaz
and
Brecker.
Oh, I can see Kaz. Yeah,
Kaz,
I can see you swinging that cane around.
I would love it. Okay, yeah, John, you'll be cosplaying Kaz. I love all of this. Let it be known that I'll definitely not have time to do this until the summer, but it'll happen one day. And when cons are back, guys, we're fucking showing up.
I mean, I was also thinking like I could do Genya, honestly, but
yes.
I don't want to do that face makeup.
Well, okay, let me put it this way. Tara, you would be an absolutely fucking gorgeous Genya. Like, duh. But also, you have said that Nina's your favorite character. And if you do want to cosplay Nina, I fucking got you for it. Actually, I got you for anything. Like, let it be.
It's fine. I've already gained like 8 pounds since I moved to California. Just give me 6 more months.
This actually gives me I've lost 40 pounds in this whole thing, but this gives me an excuse to make sure I get the last 15.
Yeah, I've started kickboxing. I've been to 4 classes so far. I have lost some of my double chin. It's very exciting. I can now use the bottom angle laptop without as much of a fear and as much sitting like this to be like, oh, hey, my chin. Don't look back at old webcasts. I'm absolutely doing it. It's really bad. But I'm also in a lot of pain. I have completely injured myself from ab workouts. I cannot stand up fully straight because my abs hurt so much. It is very embarrassing. I look like an old lady.
That's what yoga's for, babe.
Well, because I'm still scared to go anywhere other than my home and the golf course, I bought a tonal, which is like
honestly, the only reason I'm going out now is because I am fully vaccinated and 3 months out from my second vaccine. And the girls I'm going with, one had COVID and is fully recovered, and the other one is also fully vaccinated and 2 weeks out. So, yeah.
Yes.
Well, okay. So
All right.
last thoughts before we. Oh, Nick, go ahead. What were you gonna say?
No, I didn't have anything important to say.
Do it anyway. Say it anyway, or make something now.
No, I was just going to say how we've devolved into talking about our exercise routines, and so it's
Well,
probably
yeah.
time to wrap things up.
Yeah, it really is. I mean,
What's Zoya's workout routine? Like, I gotta know.
There you go.
she exists as a Grisha, and apparently that just makes them gorgeous.
God, if only.
Ooh, give me that
I
one.
would be Grisha.
I know, right? All right. Well, I'm gonna wrap this up, guys. Once again, I'm Tara, along with Nick, Jonathan, and Nami. Thank you again for joining us for Sagas and Sass, and we will see you next time, 2 weeks from now, when we talk about Lives of the Saints. Thank you, and have a good night.
Good night.
Bye, everybody.
Bye.